Back in 2024, I went through about 10 interviews for learning and development roles in Dubai. And over the past 2 years, I have also helped many clients successfully prepare for their own learning and development interview through my L&D Interview Preparation service. So in this video, I wanted to share with you the most commonly asked learning and development manager interview question, along with some sample answers that will help you to stand out on your interview. While these questions are often asked for managerial roles, they can also come up in interviews for learning and development specialist or officer and even senior manager. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Lisa and I help learning and development professionals grow in their careers with practical tips and strategies. So generally, interview questions fall into 4 categories: general questions, experience-based questions, behavioral questions, and technical questions. Let's start with the first category, the general questions. These are common interview questions asked across all industries. For example, tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work for us? Can you walk me through your past work experiences? Why are you looking for a new job? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Here are some things that you should consider when you're responding. Keep your responses concise and stay on the topic, and don't go really too much into details. Keep your responses under, I would say, 60 seconds or really maximum 90 seconds per question. Don't sound scripted, even you rehearsed your answers in your head. Practice, but keep it natural and conversational. Don't go off the topic, and definitely show enthusiasm through your body language, through your tone of voice. Now let's move on to experience-based questions. Dive into your actual work experience. These questions help hiring managers assess your ability to perform in the role based on your past experience. Common questions can include: what steps do you take to prepare for a training session? Or have you ever implemented a new learning and development technology? What was the impact? Or have you ever managed learning and development budget? How did you allocate resources effectively? Check out my video on learning and development budgets for more details. Another question could be: how do you approach different learning styles when creating a training session? If I were to answer this question, I would say that I believe employees have diverse learning preferences and training should cater to these differences. I would use a blended learning approach and combine interactive workshops, micro-learning, self-paced e-learning, and different materials. Some employees thrive in live discussion, while others prefer short, digestible content they can revisit anytime later. But beyond learning preferences, what is even more critical is ensuring employees apply what they have learned on the job. So that's why when I design a training, I make sure there is always enough time for hands-on practice, whether it is through role play, simulation, or let's say looking at real-world case studies. This approach makes training engaging, impactful, and relevant to the business. All right, let's move on to behavioral interview questions. These questions help hiring managers assess your problem-solving, communication skills, teamwork, and leadership skills. The best way to answer any behavioral question is to use a STAR method or framework. First, you start with situation, describe a relevant work scenario. Then you move on to task, where you explain your responsibility. Then you move to action, outline what you did to handle a specific situation and result. Share the outcome and impact. So One of the commonly asked questions on interview is, give me an example of when you had to roll out a large-scale training initiative with tight deadlines. How did you manage it? How did it go? So this is how I would answer. I would say that in my previous role, our company introduced a new loyalty program software across multiple hotels to improve guest experience. The challenge, we had just 6 weeks to train our employees, including front office team, reservation team, and guest relation team across 5 properties before the system went live. So first I have collaborated with key teams, which is loyalty program and hotel managers, to identify critical system features employees need to master, because employees don't have to master everything at the same time. Then we developed a blended learning strategy with short recorded e-learning modules and live virtual sessions and how-to guides. Then we have implemented a train the trainer model, where each hotel would have champions that were trained a bit more deeply and a bit more detail so that they can support their teams locally. Then we broke the rollout into milestones and tracked the progress weekly with hotel GMs. And the result, despite the deadline, 92% of employees completed the training before the launch of the loyalty program, with 90% confidence rate in using the system. And within 3 months, the loyalty program enrollments increased by 20%, and the front desk employees reported 60% reduction in system-related errors, leading to a faster check-in, check-out, smoother guest experience, and overall operational efficiency. Another behavioral questions you might be asked: tell me about the time you had to adjust a training program based on the business challenges, or describe a situation where you had to convince a resistant stakeholder to invest in learning and development initiative. I have a video on this topic as well. Check it out. Another question could be: tell me about a time you had to handle conflicting priorities between business units, or how have you used data to demonstrate the impact of learning and development initiatives and programs. I have a video on how do you measure your learning and development efforts and how you report them. Another common question is: how do you align learning and development initiatives with overall company's business strategy? To align L&D with business strategy, I start by understanding the company's priorities for the next 1-2 years. I would meet with business leaders, HR, business partners, CHRO, department head, to identify key goals, whether it's increasing profitability, reducing cost, or improving customer satisfaction. For example, if customer satisfaction is a priority, I would work with customer experience to identify service gaps. Then I design targeted L&D programs that address those issues. Another example is, if the goal is to increase profitability, I might roll out sales training focused on negotiation, consultative selling skills. If cost reduction is a priority, I would focus on efficiency training to improve overall operational processes, procedures, and decision making. Alright, now let's talk about technical interview questions. These questions are there to test your core knowledge in learning and development, as well as instructional design expertise, ability to measure training effectiveness, and so on, your core and basic learning and development topics. One of the most common technical question is, I think this is the question I was asked the most through my entire L&D career, is: how do you conduct a training needs analysis? I have a whole video explaining this in detail. Check it out. Other common questions are: how do you tailor learning and development programs for different employee levels? Or what instructional design models do you know and use? Another question is: how do you develop a leadership program from scratch? what learning management system platforms have you worked with and how do you use them in your learning and development strategy. Another question could be, what tools do you use to make learning more engaging? That's it for today. I hope you found these questions and answers helpful, and if you have learning and development interview coming up and you want some extra support and help, check out learning and development interview support. More details you will find on my website. I hope you're having adventures and following your dreams. Bye for now.